Welcome back to Loose Frame Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Martin Olich, and joining me as always,
Sam Allen.
And I'm Birdie Doyle.
Good morning, ladies. How are you?
Good. Just coming fresh off of the GIF fun. So how about you guys? How are you doing?
I am truly exhausted, like bone weary, tired, exhausted. We've been running nonstop for weeks now with different special events and travel and different things. But we have a really special guest today. Actually, we have a series of special guests coming up.
We really do.
All previously involved with The Walking Dead.
Yeah, for real.
Have you guys ever watched The Walking Dead? Was that something on your radar? Are you interested in those types of shows?
And I read the comic books too. So I was one of those people that read the comics and was like, oh my gosh, the show's coming out, and followed it through for the majority of the show.
Yeah.
So
Bernie, you?
No.
So I
No, I couldn't get into it.
Full disclosure, we're going to be interviewing Chandler Riggs here in a little bit. I have never watched a single episode of Walking Dead. I watched the trailer for like every season in prep for the interview. I watched the first episode of the series, and I watched the episode that Chandler's character, Carl Grimes. Oh shit!
That.
Spoiler.
No, I'm never. I'm not gonna watch it. No, I was excited so they filmed Hacked. They're here promoting Hacked. They filmed that right when I started, and I was excited to meet him because when I was in high school and that show was at its peak, there was a meme of Chandler Riggs that went around Twitter for like a solid 9 months, and so I knew his face. It's etched in here.
Is it Coral?
Yeah. Yes, it is. We'll show it. We'll put it right here, green screen.
I did not ask about that, full disclosure, and again on the podcast. I was thinking about it, but I was like, he probably gets asked that all the time. I just didn't want to be that guy.
That's all I knew about the show, was that his name might have been Coral.
Yeah, when we were at the Hacked premiere, I walked up to my partner and I was like, do not say the word Coral.
I think you probably have a pretty good sense of humor about it, actually. And we'll get into that on the interview, talking about how he loves going to conventions and other things. Yeah. So he definitely enjoys the fan base. But with that, we have a kind of a long interview with Chandler. So we will be right back with Walking Dead's Chandler Riggs. Welcome back to Loose Frame Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Martin Olich, and joining me now is actor, musician, and DJ, Chandler Riggs. How are you, buddy?
Doing great. How about you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for being here today. We're definitely going to get into The Walking Dead. We're going to talk a little about your music career, and we're going to talk about your latest film, Hacked, double entendre of rage-fueled karma. Did I say that right, Shane, who's off camera? I did. We're going to keep it really loose, just a great conversation. I do want to start, though, with Walking Dead, which I think a lot of people are going to know you from. You started The Walking Dead when you were 10 years old. I think you turned 11. We were talking off camera during the first season. What was that like, not only being an actor so young and walking into a series that you probably didn't know was going to explode the way it did, but also just kind of growing up on set? So let's start there.
Yeah, man, it was really, really incredible. I got so lucky in so many parts of this. So I didn't have to move. You know, our first season we shot probably like maybe half an hour away from where I lived, and you know, got to keep all my same friends, go to the same school, and I did get homeschooled for a couple of years during seasons 2 and 3, but there was at one point I told my dad, who was the studio teacher because he had taught special ed for like 25 years, was able to take early retirement and help out on set. But yeah, I told him, I was like, I've been losing my mind just like being homeschooled and just being at home all the time and not around like my friends and, you know, hear funny stories all the time. Like, man, I just want to be, you know, back in school. And so, yeah, we went back to school and made it work.
And that's rather unique. A lot of child actors do not get that opportunity. They're kind of just sequestered and stuck there on set all the time.
Yeah.
So you had done a few projects before Walking Dead, but what was that first audition for The Walking Dead like?
Oh man, I mean, honestly, it's one of those where, I mean, any actor will kind of tell you that like every audition, it's just like you get one in and like, all right, well, get it prepped and put it up and shoot it and just send it off into the abyss of self-tapes, and just like try to let it completely exit your mind so you don't think about it and be like, oh man, what if like this and this would be changing my career.
Is it a little less pressure as a 10-year-old? You're not, an actor scrapping it out in, NYU or out in LA. You're like, I got to get this job or I'm not going to make my rent this month. Like, is it a little easier?
I would I would say so. Definitely helped out a bit. But yeah, I mean, it was just like another audition kind of thrown into the mix. It wasn't really until I got the call back, like maybe a month later or something, that it actually, we went to the comic book store and like picked up the comics and I like started reading them. And actually, my audition scene was the scene in season 4 where, it was a few different scenes, but it was basically just straight out of the comics, like loosely adapted just for the scene. And it was one of the scenes where he's like trying to like lure in season 4 after the prison where Rick and Carl, they're like in that house, and there's at one point where Carl's like luring the walkers away. So there's that scene, and then there's another scene where he's like yelling at his dad that like, hey, you did this, you like, just like you killed all of them, basically, it's your fault. And I don't need you anymore. That was basically it. So, but anyway, so that was the audition scene, and I had a couple callbacks, and then went in person with Frank Darabont and Denise Youth and all them.
I'm sure you've been asked this a million times, but did anyone on that set the first season think that it would have exploded into the hit that it became?
No one. I mean, after we wrapped the first season, we were all like crying and hugging and everything because we were under the assumption that it was very possible that we would never see each other again.
Yeah.
Like that was it. We would get one season and it wouldn't get picked up or renewed. And it was just a great, summer camp, experience. But and then they brought us back again and kept bringing us back. And I remember there was a moment at the end of season 3 where we had just wrapped and we were all just like in this big like huddle and just going around just like talking about our like greatest experience, like cast and crew and everyone. Someone had brought up like that 7, or I can't remember what number it was, but they said like the number of people that like watched, it was, I think it was close to or around 10 million people that had watched the premiere for that season. And I was like 13, but I was like, man, that's a lot of people watching our show. Like there's not much else that hits those numbers. And and the whole time too, I was going to conventions as well. And the first, and like meeting fans and, signing autographs and everything, I started going after the first season aired. So I really got to experience the like growth of the show, like more people coming by. Because the first one, like, I had maybe 20, 30 people like stop by and like, oh, hey, I think I saw like one of the episodes, and then just to watch it go up over time. Really
celebrity
cool.
is a weird thing to talk about, but I think when you pair it with sort of the greater nerdverse, if I can say that, and the people that are very passionate about their one thing in the genre, that's comic books or superhero movies or whatever it is, that celebrity sort of expands exponentially, particularly if you do a lot of conventions. When were you actually cognizant of the fact that, oh, people are recognizing me now, and like I might have a little bit of fame on my shoulder here?
Oh man, I don't. I think it was probably when I started getting recognized like in restaurants, when I would just go out to eat with my family and like people would come up and ask for photos, and that was probably it, where it was like, oh man, this is wild. Like it's it's not just like isolated to like wherever I'm in for whatever towns for these conventions.
And was that something you enjoyed, or you had to grow into over time?
I honestly, for film actors in film and television, like we don't really get to experience people liking our work, you know what I mean? Like the extent of it is seeing people like it on social media. And back in 2010, 11, 12, like Facebook was the extent of social media. So actually getting to be at conventions or have people come up and like say that they enjoy my work and enjoy the show was really, really cool. Just getting that gratification that like, okay, I didn't suck that, on random day that, I was bouncing between whatever homework and tests that I had and like being thrown on set and like, I did okay that day.
Speaking of balancing homework and being on set, you grew up both on camera in front of us as the audience, but also off camera. How was that, just sort of balancing your own social life, your own body maturity, changing both on camera and off camera, and your character definitely gets darker and darker and more evolved as it goes on through the seasons. And did that have any effect on your outside of set life?
Not really. I was really fortunate to have just amazing parents that were always really supportive, and every year they would be like, "Hey," because it was a lot for them too. Of like taking like it was an hour and a half drive for us every day down to set, and an hour and a half back. Like it was a long commute, and it was a lot of work for them. So every year they were like, "Are you sure you still want to do this? Because if you don't enjoy this, like we're not doing it
Yeah.
anymore. Like at any point, you can say you want to be done, and we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
We'll stop." And at the same time, they were, told production like, "Hey, he wants to go back to school, make it work." So I was super supported by my parents and my friends too. Like all my friends that I had grown up with, I was always the getting checked out to go to auditions and everything. So no one really cared that I was on the show.
Yeah.
It just happened to just work out that way. And so just having friends before I was on the show and keeping those same friends the whole time and having great parents, I think, kept me away from like going down the typical LA child actor route and, going the whole meth heroin and everything.
You're not going to end up on True Hollywood Stories anytime
Yeah,
soon.
right.
Which is a good thing. So, The Walking Dead had good foundational architecture in the comic books, right? Like this is how the story is going to progress. But I've always wondered, whether yourself or anything anecdotally from the crew or the cast, did people read ahead? Did they read the whole thing in totality and like, oh, this is where my character is going, this is what's going on? Or was it more of a surprise? Like, I'm going to wait until I get my scripts to see where I go.
Some cast members did, some didn't. I think actually me and who else? I think like Tom Payne, who played Jesus on the show. I think like he was one of the only other cast members that was like actively reading the comics with me, you know what I mean? Maybe some of the crew as well, but I would always like read and keep up and like get the new comics as they come out and stay up to date, because I also wanted to know like job security wise.
Yeah, am I gonna die this
so when
season?
am I gonna die? Because we had like a few, probably about like 4 or 5 seasons of lead time, you know what I mean, until like we got to that point. But it was still just like good to know if my character was going to die at some point.
Yeah.
So I did like to just read and keep up to date and see what was going on. But yeah, most people didn't.
And the show is pretty faithful to the comic book. It's not always 1-to-1, but pretty close. Was there a moment where your character or the show itself took a different direction that you weren't expecting?
Yeah, I mean, we had a lot of character deaths that either got swapped with others or got dramatized in some way or added or subtracted. So I think most of the changes were like those either characters dying or being around. I do think one of the coolest additions adaptation wise to the show was that was not in the comics was Terminus, because it was a plot line that was just basically the group running into these cannibals, and that was it. But like taking it and just expanding and making it a whole like from the end of season 4 into like season 5, making it a really expansive, cool plot line without derailing from the rest of the story too much too, like made it really, really awesome. And I think that's why the end of season 4 and the start of season 5 is like some of the best episodes of the show ever, is just awesome, cool, original adaptations like that.
Yeah, it's a little different being from a comic book and not a previous movie, not making a remake. Was there any creative license you had when you were bringing it to your own character, or were you trying to be as faithful to the source material as possible?
When I had the audition and like was reading the comics, it was like purely like, okay, how do I, I was 10, but still just like, what can I do to just be like this character in the comics that is visually represented? I can see his facial expressions, So definitely took that into account. But most of the time when we were shooting the show, it was just like, it was pretty laid out in the script of what happens and how the characters react to it and everything, and there wasn't too much room to play, but we didn't really feel a need to, I don't think, because it was really well laid out and we really trusted our directors and and yeah, it worked out pretty well.
Yeah. The first season, it really is about, throwing these disparate characters into this world where it's just zombies everywhere. But I think what I really liked about The Walking Dead is the longer it went on in seasons, the zombies were less and less the focus of this. It was really more about this family unit and how they're navigating this post-apocalyptic world and how do they stay alive. For your character in particular, I think you have a huge story arc where you really are a completely different person, as you would expect over 8 seasons, from where you started and where you ended with all the adversities and trials that went on. What was your favorite part of that arc? And as your character changed, what was as an actor, like, what was the meatiest thing? It's like, oh, wow, I get to do this season. This is gonna be great.
There was I think it was the episode that I was talking about with my audition scene that was famously known as the pudding episode is how I have to refer to it. But that episode was really just an awesome culmination of so much tension between Rick and Carl from the last, season and a half almost of the Carl's mom is dead, and it's just so many just bad decisions that at least from Carl's perspective, poor decisions from Rick's end of things that really got to just come out in that one episode.
Yeah.
And just getting to just be on set for all 8 days of the episode, and it also just happened to be my second week of freshman year of high school, so it was really bad timing for school. I'm just I'm sorry guys, I gotta go. I'll be back in a week and a half. But just to get to have an episode just for me was just so cool. And to get to just tie it up at the end in a really cool way where it's no, he is scared and he does still need his dad.
Yeah.
And even though Rick expects him to act like an adult, it's okay to still need someone.
Yeah. I always like asking this for actors. Was there a skill or something unique you learned physically on set over those many seasons that you kind of still pull out today as a party trick or something to show off, or just something you enjoy doing? I was working, actually was a production manager on a feature with Norman Reedus, and we had crossbows on set for some reason, and he had no problem picking that thing up and accurately shooting a bunch of different stuff. I was like, it wasn't just, trick photography on set. So was there anything like that for you?
Actually, it's funny you bring that up because there was, just honestly, firearm safety on set, because there's a lot of times where I've been on sets since then that haven't treated firearms or replica firearms as they should be treated, and it's just such a valuable thing to just really know how to check a weapon and clean it, and even though when after it's been signed off by the armor and the AD, making 100% sure that nobody's gonna get hurt in these scenarios. That's one super valuable thing that I've taken away and have applied to other sets since then. And actually in Hacked, I got to there's a moment where a gun gets involved, and I got to help out some of the younger actors. Okay, so this is really how you check it, clear it, and make sure everyone's feels safe around it. So it was really cool to get to not show it off, but to have that knowledge be carried into something else.
And that safety is so important, particularly after a moment like Rust. Not to bring that up, but it's something to be aware of. We're gonna get into Hacked here in a little bit. I won't spoil the movie, but you might have a demise in this movie. Was there a favorite death, whether it was yours or someone else's on set, that you were just oh, that was cool, I wish I could have died that way?
Oh man.
Obviously in the context of having fun on the set.
Yeah. Oh man. I mean, there were so many just awesome just sequences and moments for deaths on the show. But oh man, I'm trying to think of one that really stands out. I mean, I really do think that Lori's death, my character's mother, I mean, it impacted a lot of, well, at least myself, emotionally, because it was right over my 13th birthday, which was the worst 13th birthday ever. But the whole sequence, it took us 2 days to shoot the whole thing, and we're crying for 11 hours a day, and it's just, it really your body, that it's not real, but your body doesn't.
Yeah.
When you put your body through just that much, okay, get to this emotional level again and again and again and again for like 2 days straight. It's not great. All that being said, though, like that sequence just like turned out so well in the episode where it's just, you know, this character giving herself up for her daughter, you know, and just accepting that there's like nothing that she can do about it, and just that this is, you know, her purpose. It was just a really, really well done and executed, and like it's one of our best episodes ever because of that.
I actually agree. Was there a prop or a piece of wardrobe that you kept after the season?
I really wish I've since learned that it's way better to ask for forgiveness than permission, because I really wanted to have, and I've asked the producers years, you know, like obviously when I wrapped and have been asking it since then, for my character's hat, of course, but I didn't get to keep it. They gave me one of the hats that Andy, guy who played Rick, that Andy had back in the first season. I don't know if he actually wore it or not, but it was one of the like 6 hats that they had.
Yeah.
I got one of those, and I got one of the like science dog shirts that my character wore from the first season as well. But I know I would want to have kept my holster, my hat, my boots would have been cool. There were a lot of things that would have been awesome to have that were like, you know, just like staples as a part of like, you know, I you know, put on the props and put on the hat, and I'm like in character. You know? It's very cool.
See, I would have thought you would have stolen that hat one way or the other.
I have like, so yeah, it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. I've learned that for sure.
So, you know, you're coming off a huge show like Walking Dead. What was it like transitioning to a show like A Million Little Things or Only? How was that shift, just not only in terms of, hey, I've been this character for so many years, now I got to play something else, but also moving from something that was so much in the zeitgeist worldwide, right, to having to transition like, well, now I'm going to do other things.
It's, you know, it's so interesting, like the perspective of just like being on like looking at it from an outside perspective, because, you know, you would think that it's like a huge shift going from like one thing to another thing, but like at the end of the day, it's just being on set, you know, and just like it really comes down to just who you work with and who's around you on set. And it has nothing to do with like how big the show is or what crazy stunts happen or like, you know, what even honestly what actually happens in the story. Like so much of it just comes down to the people that you're working with and how it is. So getting to go into a show like A Million Little Things, where it's an established group of people that I'm coming in new, you know, but I'm also coming in as an adult. I'm no like this. It really felt like the first thing that I was on that I wasn't a kid, you know. I was in Vancouver, in a town that like, you know, I knew no one, knew nothing but like, you know, what I was there to do. And so getting to just like walk around the city and experience just being an adult actor was a really, really cool experience. And to be welcomed into a show that I was only on for 9 episodes, but to just like with such open arms and like, you know, is a really great cast and great crew, and just a testament to exactly that. Like, it doesn't matter how big or small a show is, or, you know, again, what happens in the story. It's just, who's there.
Did you always want to be an actor, or was it kind of like, I'm enjoying doing this, but I'm going to do something else later on?
There was a point in time, well, I'd started doing like community theater and whatnot when I was like 4. So very, very early on. But there was a point in time where I think I was like, I remember this, but my parents, you know, they tell the story. I was just like sitting in the backseat of the car, and again, I was like 5 or 6. And I was like, Mom, Dad, I could just see myself on the red carpet one day. And they were like, okay, Chandler, let's, you know, sure you can, but that's so great. Like, that's, but I don't know what it is. And it has nothing to do like with just being on set. It has nothing to do with like red carpet or whatever, like stardom. And just, I think I just always wanted to, just like create and be around creative people and, you know, try and make something cool. And that is why I like to go to film festivals, you know, like the one I'm here for, or conventions or anything else, because, you know, we get to like see it just re-inspires just why I do this, and like just to like feel that love, and that I you know, just somehow the work that I'm doing is impacting people in some way, whether they're laughing or crying or like throwing stuff at the TV. It's like so making you feel something and like pulling you away from whatever else you're experiencing in your life. And that's it's very cool.
We're gonna get into your creative music pursuits here in a second, but stick with the last question. If turn back the clock, Walking Dead was a disaster, wasn't picked up after the first season, you never act again, what would be the mundane job that you would have actually, or the mundane career you probably would have gone into?
Well, I kind of bounce around a bit because like, when I was, like, 6 or 7, I would always write, like, what we wanna be when you grow up. It was, like, I wanna design Pokemon, so I, like, loved Pokemon. I was like, I wanna make Pokemon games, and then when I was in high school, I was like, "Man, it'd be cool to be, like a teacher." Both my parents are teachers, and I just really enjoyed that. But, and then I was gonna go to school for sociology, so I don't really know. It's,
Yeah.
like, kind of, like, all over the place, but, um yeah, I don't quite know. I mean, I do think that, like, still being in some sort of, like, creative industry would have been awesome. I mean, I'm super into just, like, tech and computers and everything, and I do actually I work in Unity and, like, doing game programming
Mhm.
and stuff and everything, so, that's probably a route that I would have ended up going down is, like,
Yeah.
game development in some
Well,
fashion.
it sounds like you would have led up to a creative career either way. So let's switch now to music. You DJ a bit, you produce music, you're into EDM, electronic music. What was like your most foundational genre of music growing up? Like what was it you were hearing that's like, oh, I love this.
My first concert was the Foo Fighters. My
Okay.
dad, like, brought me and my brother I think I was like 9 or something. And so the Foo Fighters were like a big just staple of growing up. Of course, when like I was like 10 or 11 when Skrillex was getting big, but really into electronic music as soon as that, kind of music started getting more popular. But uh, yeah, it just such an interesting blend between like like 2000s rock, and like pop punk
Yeah.
stuff and electronic music, but at the same time like I love, cinematic, or orchestral stuff. Like I mean Hans Zimmer is one of the most talented people out there, but there's so many other great composers I listen to a lot. And yeah, so my music has just kind of since become this weird blend of like, some inspiration from like just 2000s rock
Yeah.
and like punk stuff and orchestral stuff and electronic music as well. So it's been a whole just mismatch of things, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Is it the production of or the curation of that you like better? I've talked to other DJs and it's like having that crowd in front of you and being able to manipulate them in real time is really where their passion's coming from.
It's yeah, being on stage and like and performing in that way is such a thrill. And it's like because the stakes are so high, because if you put on the wrong song, they are disengaged like that and gone, so you have to like really be in tune with, I think I always did my research like going whenever before I would play a show of like, okay, what like is big in like these areas and what is not so big, and like of course the artists that I'm opening for and everything would always go into account when putting together my set. And I would still have some in like my backup in case like nothing is working, and then I'm like, okay, I change gears and like go into something else. But that being said, like just like sitting down on my computer and just finding cool chord progressions and putting together a piece of music is like it's so awesome. I love it.
Um, just for my own interest, is there a underplayed artist right now that you wish people were listening to?
Oh man, I mean I'm so involved with the underground electronic music scene that it's like it's so tough to um because no one has heard
Yeah.
of a lot of these guys. There's one artist that's like big on the rise right now, and well, two artists, but there's one, his name is ISOXO, and he's like one of my top artists that I listen to all the time. But he's like blowing up like crazy. He's about to be like headlining festivals and everything here pretty soon. But he's kind of like been this like emergent artist in the last like 4 years from like the underground electronic music scene, like in LA and San Diego and everything. That's like really, really cool. That I mean, I go to shows that's like 50 people, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like just like super, just small and intimate stuff that I just love. So, but he's one of them, but there's so many others that cascade down from there that are like
Yeah.
really great.
Well, it was just at South by, and there was, they have those TED Talks kind of throughout. There was an AI specialist talking about specifically music, how people are defaulting to Spotify or Pandora or whatever, and the algorithm is just reinforcing one subgenre. So they don't learn anything new. They don't explore new artists. Where should people be looking right now to find new music?
I've always been on like SoundCloud is really for the last 11 years really has been my go-to for underground stuff. Well, that and Reddit, like, honestly.
Yeah.
Like I follow a lot of subreddits that are
Yeah.
like, just collective people that just like that are
So still
listen
word of
to the
mouth,
same-
ultimately.
pretty
right?
much.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, let's switch now to the movie you are here to promote, which is Hacked, Double Entendre of Rage-Fueled Karma. In studio, off camera, we have the director-writer, Shane Brady, just off camera. How in the world did you meet Shane?
I met Shane through one of my previous co-stars, Caitlin Nacon, who had
Who's also in the room, too.
Yes, right back there. Yes, done some stuff. She had done some stuff with him in the past, and had mentioned to me that he needs like a good villain for this role, for this comedy that he's doing, and I it took me a bit to actually get around to like reading the script, and I read the script and I was like, I don't really get it. I don't know what's like
It's
going
it's
on.
the weirdest thing I've ever read.
It's like but he had also sent this audiobook, and he was like, don't read the script, listen to the audiobook. And so I was like, okay, well, because I started reading the script and I was like, I don't really understand it. And so I was like, okay, read the audio or listen to the audiobook. And I was like, oh, I get it now, because it's such like a specific type of comedy that he brings to life, and instantly I was like, okay, yeah, I get it, I'm in.
Had you ever auditioned to play a villain previously?
Probably. I mean, I like the amount of self tapes that I throw into the abyss.
Yeah.
Like it's like every actor. So I'm fairly positive I have. Yeah.
And you mentioned it is a comedy. It is a very specific type of comedy. I'm doing the movie a disservice. Can you set up the premise of the film?
Yes. So it follows this this family who they are, well, the first 10 minutes of the story is like what actually happened. And it's Shane and Emily getting their down payment on a house stolen from them through wire fraud. And everything after that 10 minutes is everything they wished they could have done to the guy who hacked them. So that's the premise for the film. It's great.
And I won't spoil anything. You do play the villain. Was it just a pure joy to be like that silly and that over the top?
Dude, it was so great. It was like to get to really like because this character, you'll see when it's you'll see it in the film, but it's like he is the he has all these different like personas that he puts on, like just silly accents and everything that he like, morphs and changes himself to like fit into, because he's like impossible to catch by the government and everything. So it was just so much fun to really get to stretch my limits as an actor. And I mean, it's all stuff that I do in my acting class like every week, but to get to do it on set, and like on camera, and really get to have a new experience like that was really awesome, and to just be trusted, by Shane as well. Like it was such a great collaborative environment that I really loved being a part of.
I have seen the movie. I think people who will see this eventually, whether it's at festivals coming up, you're here for the Gasparilla International Film Festival, or eventually on streaming services, it's a really fun time. Santa Claus shows up. There's all kinds of madcap stuff that happens that is really over the top and really delightful to watch. But as someone who grew up as an actor on set, having to go through that process, you got a chance to work with some younger actors in this movie. Was that fun for you to now be in kind of a senior role and not teach them how to act, but impart advice to them?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, well, there wasn't much like advice to be imparted. They're, like they're very, they're there for a reason and very talented. But it was cool to be on the other side of it and see like, just kids being on set with their parents and just seeing it again from like an outside perspective this time, and to see like the 10 and watch production be scrambling for like the 10.5 hour mark, when the 9.5 hour 10.5 hour mark for when the kids have to be wrapped and everything. So it has been like an interesting experience being on the other side of it for sure.
Prior to this job, I'm film commissioner for Tampa Bay. You know, I worked at a very high level production management line producing for about 15 years. And it's a grind, man. I mean, it's really long days. People see the result of it right on the screen. It's like, oh, that's amazing. I really want to get into film. But if you're actually in the business, it is long, dedicated, hard hours. It's really hard work. What makes you still want to get out of bed and do it every day?
It's a great question. Yeah. Honestly, just I think for all the reasons that I've kind of been saying this whole time of just like the people, you know what I mean? The people that you get to surround yourself on set is just, it's really, really incredible. And, you know, I just actually this week, I was doing a night shoot on Tuesday, getting to shoot a project where I was ACing, like it was my first time being on set where I was not in a creative position. Like I was just, you know, I was helping produce it, but just like assistant camera was like, that was my main thing. And, but even in that position, like getting to just be around incredibly talented people, you know, who are just have a passion for it and the love for it. Like it just fuels that spark, you know, every time I'm on set or just going to conventions and getting to meet people and saying that they love the work. It's like, it's all just, there's not like one, like a good, like single word that encompasses it, you know what I mean? It's just, it's just the whole process, the whole just, and even in post-production too, of like editing and like you just like, you sit back and like watch your scene that you cut together and you're like, damn, I did a good job. Like, all right, great. Like that's great, you know, and it's all of it is just so rewarding at the end of the day, you know, and even sound, you know, putting in, when you're on set and like, you know, getting just great audio and when you're doing it in post, you know, putting all the music together and when you get the sound and like, oh, there's an airplane in this one bit, like how do I get rid of this? And you figure out a way to do it. It's like, I love all of it. It's really great.
Have you at any point gotten the bug to maybe direct or write or just launch your own?
Yeah, I have. I've directed a short film that's out. It came out at the end of last year, and it's called The Unicorn That Never Lies. It's up on my YouTube, and I directed that with my my production company partner Xavier Jimenez, who that's what we were shooting this other project earlier this week with, and yeah, we have another short we both directed that he wrote that is coming out at some point this year. But that one is starring Caitlin Nacon as well, which we're super stoked about. She did a great job. And we have a couple other projects in the pipeline that are, you know, gonna get made at some point. Yeah.
We're coming up to the end of our time here, but I do want to ask a couple more questions. I was mentioning, you know, it's really hard to do this type of work. You really have to love it. Looking back after all these years, if someone was a 10-year-old actor just trying to jump in, what is the one thing you wish you could have told yourself if you could speak to your 10-year-old self?
You know, I don't know if I would change anything, to be honest. Like there wasn't a thing that I went into that there was one time that I was super unprepared for a scene, but other than just to like, you know, don't put as much focus on school because I didn't go to I took like 10 AP classes, but I ended up not going to college anyways, you know what I mean? So I think just to like really learn as much as possible, like and I did. That's the thing, you know. So it's hard to say that like I really needed to tell myself anything. It's I just got so lucky to have that experience where I feel like I did everything the way that it should have happened.
Yeah. Tom Hanks always says, you know, as far as his piece of advice goes, you know, show up on time, which means early, know the material, and have an idea. That's it. Is there a fourth thing you would add to that for someone who's looking to get into acting?
It's interesting between like acting and directing and everything because it's you really want to just learn. Like you want to just learn and collaborate because you're not going to be the smartest person in the room. There's going to be people that like are around you that are smarter, that are, you know, more talented in their own ways, you know, but it's you really just want to like find and you know, utilize the best ideas around you to like help collaborate and make this thing better than it ever could be with just you alone. And that's what filmmaking is all about. That's what life in general is all about. You know, It's like, you know, we're all just here to try to, you know, collaborate and make cool things.
I appreciate that. final question here. Let's end on Hacked. Hacked, double entendre of rage-fueled karma. Let's pitch it to the audience right now. What is the reason they should go see this movie?
It is a hilarious, you'll like be rolling on the floor laughing like type of film. It's so funny, and it's so just slapstick hilarious, and it's everything that you have wanted. It's like it feeds all those intrusive thoughts, you know what I mean, of just like where, you know, someone cuts you off in traffic and you're like, man, I just want to, and then you do nothing, you know. It's like because you're a good natured human being, you know. But this film just feeds all of that, you know, where it's just like, oh man, I just want to, this guy stole so much money, I just want to just and they do. So it's great.
Chandler Riggs, thank you so much for being with us today. And for our audience, again, it's Hacked, a double entendre of rage-fueled karma. Once this drops, we'll let you know where else you can see it. We hope you guys tune in next time. Again, I'm Tyler Martin-Olich, and with me is Chandler Riggs. Thanks for watching. And welcome back. That was a really cool opportunity. I get to talk to some cool people sometimes, but Chandler was just the most gracious and nice person behind the scenes.
He is so sweet.
And it was a really cool conversation. And I know we got to work with him on Hacked a little bit, but just having him here in the studio, you know, what you guys don't know off camera is that we've been spending time with them, the entire cast of Hack, for the last week in that we're recording this. But it was a lot of fun. So what did you guys take away? It was a really cool, in-depth conversation.
Yeah, he's such a cool and gracious person in general. And I feel like, you know, after getting an opportunity to spend some time with him, you know, the things that he found interesting were just even more. Because, you know, you see somebody on screen for a long time through their childhood growing into an adult, and he really is one of those people that's just like us. And I was really interested also in his music career, because that's not something I ever would have thought of him having a music career. Yeah.
He's super down to earth. What did you think, Bertie?
I thought it was cool. I really liked on that same note about asking him about fame and when people would pull him for pictures in restaurants and in public and stuff. And he was saying that, you know, in this industry, you don't get a lot of projects that people really appreciate. So he was like, I love it. Like, please, by all means, which I wasn't expecting. I figured after how big Walking Dead was that he'd be like, please don't ask me for a picture, you know?
I was going to say, it was you're speaking of big. I mean, it wasn't just big. It was a cultural phenomenon. I mean, people were wild for this. It went on for almost a decade. And there's still spinoffs in the show right now.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
Oh, I was going to say on that note, you know, we had like a contest and we were talking about like, oh, hey, we're going to give free tickets. But then when we talked to Chandler about like, hey, would you also mind doing a meet and greet? He was totally for it. And, you know, I thought that was really gracious of him too. Yeah. He was like, yes, I absolutely love talking to people who are interested in talking to me. So
super nice, talented. If there's a casting director listening to this podcast, he's definitely someone you actually want to cast and work with.
Yes.
Well, it's like an interesting, I was thinking about it like, if you find success that big so young, I feel like it could go either way, right? But
and
then
it usually goes the other way.
It does, but then it almost makes you wonder, and this is just like train of thought, it makes you wonder like, oh, I wonder if he has like kind of low pressure for his career because he, you know, started out with something so huge. It could go either way too, maybe. You know, you're like, I got to top this, but you're also like, I've been successful. I'm happy with doing kind of some hobby stuff now, the EDM, and then the next project will be fun.
It probably does in a way take some of the pressure off, but it also could increase the pressure. I could see that too.
Yeah, it could go either way, right?
Man, I had this really big hit. Why haven't I found another equally big hit? And he's had some good success. I'm not saying he doesn't, but you know, I'm sure it's got to be at the back of their mind. But
it makes you wonder.
Going back to people approaching him for his fame and asking for you know, photos, I thought it was really interesting with him talking about his experience at conventions. And we've had other people on the podcast who are convention goers, like a Bob Layton, you know, and others. And a lot of them kind of bristle at it. They don't like going to conventions. It's just something they have to do. But what I thought was really interesting was him saying that it's really the only time he as an actor feels like he's getting some feedback from the audience. Because he's right. In stage plays, you know, the audience is there in the room with you, and you can sort of react and feed off of that in real time. You're on set, you know, the clapboard, you know, clicks at the end of the day and they call a wrap, you go home. You're not in the living rooms with people watching what you did on TV. So I thought that's the first time I've ever heard someone who does the convention circuits mention it in that way and think of it in that way.
Yeah, and especially because he had such an interest in talking to the people around him. It didn't surprise me after I met him, because I also worked conventions, and I know that those things can be very stressful for actors, for people going there, just because, at like comic book conventions, things like that, sometimes you get people that are really intense. But I just think that speaks to, like his down to earthness and how he actually genuinely cares about the people that are talking to him and what they have to say, and he takes it in and thinks about it.
Well, he also genuinely cared about the comics too. Like you said, he was reading them along the show, which I guess even if you weren't into comics, you would read them along with the show, right?
Yeah.
But it sounded like, and I wish we had asked him a little more in depth, but it sounded like he was already into reading comic books when he started. So that helps, right?
Yeah, it does.
I mean, he was the perfect. I mean,
conventions.
that might be a little mature as far as content goes. For what I think he just turned 10 when.
Yeah, that's what he said. 10.
He's probably into comics, but probably not those comics.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
it was fun hearing him talk about that.
Appreciation.
I'm just curious from your perspectives. He talked about having the ability to still be a kid, and his parents kept him in his same hometown high school, grew up with the same kids he was friends with his entire time, and they kind of sheltered him from being that sort of, Hollywood, kid on TV, secluded away. If either of you had found that kind of fame in high school, do you think it would have just totally changed you, and you would have been like, I'm not talking to my friends groups. I'm a famous person now.
I don't think it would have affected me and my friends. I would have absolutely. And I went to a very specific kind of school. I won't say what kind of school. I would have been so out of there. I would have been like, I'm never coming back. If you want to put me in public school, maybe. But I'm never coming back. I'm never doing the uniform. I'm never doing church every Friday. I'm not doing it anymore. So it was cool that he stayed in school. I don't think I would have had the self-control, but it obviously is something he looks back on and is grateful for. So
yeah.
It's funny because I'm exactly the opposite, where I was always kind of like a theatrical kid just in personality, but I did not like being in front of like a crowd or, when I got into film, people were like, do you want to be an actress? And I'd be like, no. And my best friend would be like, oh no, if she became famous, that would be the worst like possible thing that could happen to her because I'm a private person.
Yeah.
So I would probably be more like Kristen Stewart, where I'm just like, please leave me alone.
Disappear in the background. Like, don't talk to me.
Hey, I did the thing. Well, I love talking to people, you know, but like I definitely wouldn't have been, like seduced by that world.
Yeah. My girlfriend likes to say I'm weatherman famous because we go to a lot of things, a lot of events, and people like are lining up to talk to me and everything. And it's usually them asking me for money. But I do get that a lot. And, I can turn a switch on in my brain where it's just like, okay, I'm in networking mode. I need to do these things. And I just sort of spit out the same things over and over again because it's almost, I'm sure the same thing at conventions where it's just the same questions over and over again. Like, I don't think I asked Chandler a single original question. I'm sure if you go back through his long history of podcast interviews, every one of those topics has probably been hit on.
Sure.
But then I turn it off and then I don't want to associate at all with the industry. And that's just me personally.
That's
it's just
fair.
like, no, I'm going to go someplace else.
Yeah.
And everyone finds it weird that my like friends group does not include filmmakers. Like,
no, that makes so much sense. Especially considering your position, and you're right, people do ask from you and they don't give back to you.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like, oh, I'll help you with yours if you help me with mine. It's entirely help me with mine.
yeah. And that's my job. I mean,
And
it
that's
is.
your job.
And I'm fine doing that. But it's when, I've been at restaurants and someone has recognized me and they come over and, ask about a permit or something like that. It's like, I'm literally eating dinner right now. And that is nowhere near as, obnoxious as someone out with their family,
And that might
eating a
be
spaghetti
more-
dinner and someone wants, sign a headshot.
No, that might be more obnoxious.
Maybe a little bit.
Hey, what's the status of my permit? It's like, well, I sent it off to the parking department, but it should come back. Come on.
I know.
That is much more obnoxious.
But I brought all that up to put a point in the fact that I appreciate Chandler wanting to stay, kind of level-headed and grounded with where he came from in his friends group. And I don't think a lot of people in that same situation would have that opportunity. I mean, a lot of times it's, it's set tutors, like you're out of there homeschooling.
Yeah, well, it helped. And a little sneak peek for the next episode, we have Caitlin Nacon on, but they both grew up in Atlanta and it filmed in Atlanta from what I understand, at least the first few seasons.
Yeah, well,
I don't know if not all of them.
Atlanta-ish, yeah.
Atlanta-ish, but at least the area. It's not in LA.
Yeah.
It's not on location wherever the White Lotus is right now, Fiji or whatever. You know, like it was close enough that he could have a normal life, you know?
Yeah, they did talk about the benefit of being able to be basically home and being able to return to your normal life after you're done on set. And I feel like that's a huge benefit.
Oh, yeah. Gosh.
The stability of it.
Well, even if that's where his family is, then you get to see your family. It's not like they've picked up and it's just mom, dad, and Chandler in LA most of the time, and then grandma and aunts and uncles are back in Atlanta. Like, overall, you know where you are. It's the same climate. I mean, that's kind of nitty gritty, but like to change climate, like what if he was from, Minnesota or whatever, and then he had to come live in Florida for 9 months? As a kid, that's just a lot of change.
Yeah.
And so it's good that he didn't have a lot of change.
And, he obviously grew up on set. He was on for 8 seasons. So it was basically his entire middle school and high school career was spent also on set. So that's very unique. And I did enjoy talking to him about how, just as he was maturing off screen, he was maturing on screen as well. And that sort of evolution of his character kind of fit, although it was a much darker character than he is in real life, but it kind of fit with his evolution going through high school. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
I also enjoyed him talking about his music and just being creative in general. And I feel like creative people want to stay creative and engaged. Are you EDM fans?
Oh, yeah.
So I'm not EDM, but I do love electronic music. And this is what I was thinking about, Birdie, when you were talking about low pressure with your career. Because I feel like since he's had such a big show under his belt, maybe he now feels like, oh, I can explore my music now.
Yeah.
It's an avenue I haven't gone down yet. And I've had this success already, so I can move to something completely different. Like, that's kind of what I was thinking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love electronic music.
You do?
Yeah. And I loved how he was talking about Reddit and how that's where he looks for music, because I'm more into like synthwave because I'm a super nerd, but that's also where I go when I'm looking for new music as well. So
yeah, I'm on SoundCloud a lot as well.
SoundCloud's the move.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, there's a lot of like mumblecore rappers on there too that I'm not super into. But
SoundCloud is where the high school rappers will put their very specific regional raps.
Yeah.
Those are hysterical. I heard one from somebody who grew up in Tampa and went to high school with this kid in Tampa, and he's like rapping about the Publix, and he's rapping about like Curtis Hickson and like GMF, and it's like, this is hysterical. Someone put all this time into this. It was terrible. It's still stuck in my head.
I listen to mumblecore rap, but they're talking about pub subs. I'm into that.
I know. I'll try to find it and send it to you. It's been in my head since freshman year of college at UT.
My brother went to high school with someone who actually made it and became like
nice.
Yeah.
Who? Do you remember?
Extation. I hope.
Yeah. Really?
Yes.
We'll talk about that off camera.
Yeah. Fort Lauderdale is a crazy place, but yes.
We'll talk about that later.
I'm so old. I have no idea what they're talking about.
He was a huge sensation for like, forgive me, like 9 months or something like that. And then it kind of went downhill, but whatever.
Fair enough.
We'll cut all of that. Sorry.
Let's talk a little bit about Hack too. Hack just premiered at the Gasparilla International Film Festival
with major success.
Success. Yeah, it was a sellout crowd. It was just so pumped up and huge, and everyone was just, the energy in the room was explosive. It's about to go on its festival run. That was sort of its kickoff. Excited to see where it goes. I'm sure it'll be on streaming networks sometime in the fall. But it was the difficulties of filming, right? It's a very low budget film, only a couple $100,000, and even that, they lost a big funder about a week before production was supposed to start. And Chandler was just so gracious that he opened up his doors and said, hey, you can live in my guest house. You can do this. You can film in my condo, like no problem. Like we're going to let you do all these things because I want you to be successful. And it was just nice to hear that, refreshing that, fame certainly has never gone to his head, and he still wants to make cool things with cool people.
Wow, I never knew that. Yeah, going to see
You had to go to the Q&A.
I was at the Q&A.
Oh. All right.
Oh, was it the panel?
It was the panel. It was the
Okay,
panel.
I was
Sorry.
in a different thing.
There we go.
I was giving the Q&A, Tyler.
Oh, that's right. Okay. No, it was the panel. It was the panel we did before.
But it was the most fun. I have to say, Hacked was the most fun I've had in a movie theater in a very long time. And that's not even like, oh, let's promote a Tampa movie. Like, genuinely, it was the most fun I've had in a really long time.
They had a really genius bucket hat marketing idea. They had Chandler come into the Q&A as the chameleon, which is his character in Hacked. They had everybody up on stage to show that it really was like kind of a family production, which was really fun. And they gave Chandler and Caitlin the opportunity to stray from the seriousness of The Walking Dead and get into some really wacky kind of violence, which is fun.
Yeah, I think Chandler appreciated that too. It's come up, I'm sure, in other podcasts, and we touched on it a little bit in the panel during the film festival about being typecast. And this is so completely different than Carl Grimes. It's so completely different than anything else he's done in his career, because it is just kind of this madcap, crazy, surrealist slasher.
That's
almost.
a good word for it, surrealist. Yeah.
Because it is kind of like a fever dream. It really
It
is.
is.
I mean, it's, at one point, Santa Claus shows up and like strangles someone to death. It's an interesting film.
When I first met Emily, the producer, the first thing I said to her was, "Santa Claus is the Zodiac killer."
I mean, it goes in that kind of territory. It's very strange.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of fun. Any other tidbits from the interview you guys want to cover?
Chandler's a really cool dude.
Yeah.
And if you get a chance to meet him, we're going to have on a whole bunch of people from Hacked coming up in the next few episodes. So that'll be fun. So maybe binge all these episodes one after another. That'd be a cool idea.
Yeah. And personally, if you have the opportunity to go see Hacked in a theater with other people, do it. It is a great time. It is definitely one of those movies that, like, if you see it with other people in a group, it's hysterical. It's a great time. I would definitely recommend doing
The reactions are necessary for the full experience.
Yeah.
Do you want to say the name in full?
Okay. Hacked, a double entendre of rage-fueled karma.
Yes.
2025.
Yeah, put that into a hashtag.
I did, and it took up the whole line.
my girlfriend brought her 16-year-old, and he brought some of his friends, and they were hysterically laughing. They loved the movie. It's definitely skews towards the younger audience. I think it's going to have a really big success. Yeah.
It was really cool. I got to talk to Colin and Owen, who are the kids in the family, the actors, and I told them, I was like, this just looked like a ton of fun. And they grew up together. So it's like brothers, messing around on set. I won't give too much away, but that beginning where they're showing their characters' YouTube pic, I was like, that alone looked like a ton of fun to film.
Yeah.
And that was just a chunk.
Yeah.
So a lot of fun. Anyway, with that, we'll wrap this up. We hope you guys join us for part 2 of our little Walking Dead mini series here. We have Caitlin Nacon coming up next.
Caitlin Nacon. And then if you keep an eye out, we'll have Colin and Owen, those teenagers who are killing it right now.
Yep. Also on Hacked. But with that, we need to close this out. Where can people learn more about us, Miss Birdie?
We are the Loose Framing Podcast. You can stream us anywhere you stream podcasts, and you can follow us at Film Tampa Bay across the board.
And with that, we'll see you next time.